The short off season is over. The Fighting Tiger football program on the Ponderosa this morning. I was there, as was a massive amount of Baton Rouge media, and we are going to be talking about that today. Got Casey Gaines and Jacob Beck back there on the ones and twos. Our Thursday show is brought to you by Rouse's. Thrilled to have them on the Hunt Palmer Show each and every Thursday. Of course, I spend a lot of Fridays at Rouse's throughout the football season, as does T-Bob, and we're fired up to tell you about Rouse's each and every Thursday. The weekend is just about here. You need to get your weekend grocery shopping done. Rouse's is your spot. If you're in South Louisiana, there's one not too far from you. 15 minutes, we'll go to Luke Johnson. He covers the Saints, obviously, for NOLA.com and The Advocate. Been down there for camp. They're a week in the books. We'll talk to Luke about that in 15 minutes. Got to meet the freshmen in hour number 2. Got some other camp things I want to talk about, some potential rules changes in college football we're going to get to. So plenty over the next 2 hours, but we are going to be heavy on LSU football as they started practice this morning at 9:45, actually a little before 9:45 over in the indoor facility. And they stayed in the indoor facility for the majority of practice today, which, you know what, I'm fine with. It's quite warm at the moment, and you're trying to get some work in. And instead of having guys having to take water breaks frequently and go sit in their big ice bucket thing that they sit in, the big mobile home that's 33 degrees, just stay in the indoor and get some work done. And they did. It was high energy. It was efficient. There's a lot going on in the indoor facility. And we'll get into it now, and we'll talk about it. And I think you all understand that, the guy who's running first today may not start against Florida State. The guy who's running first today may not start against Alabama. They're just out there practicing. So I'll tell you what I saw. I'll give you some of my impressions, but I think anything drastic that you take away would probably be overreacting a bit after an hour and 20 minutes of football practice in fall camp in just helmets and no shoulder pads and no leg pads. It was just a day to get out there, get moving, understand where you need to be. The veterans are going through first. The younger players who haven't been here kind of going through second, and you understand how things are going to flow. And they'll put the pads on next week, and they'll get a little bit more physical and a little bit more up-tempo and a little more meaningful, I would think. But today was just a good start. I think what I told you yesterday was that I don't have a great feel for what the secondary is going to look like. And I don't know that I do today after watching practice either. But I can tell you how it looked today, because as I suspected, they did go out there and put an 11-man defense out there against no offense and have them swarm to the football. And you can see the group that goes out there first, and that was the thing that I paid most attention to today. So up front, your first four, and this is a pretty telltale sign that it's not set in stone, is that the front four was Obi Hufo and Savion Jones on the ends, which I think sounds right. And in the middle, you had Mason Smith, which sounds right. And you had Jacobian Guillory. I think Mekhi Wingo is the likely player there. But Jacobian Guillory has been a team guy. He's been here for 4 years, and he was going through drills first. Mekhi Wingo worked with the second team. Do I think an All-American is going to get relegated to the bench because of 40 minutes of practice I watched today? Probably not. But that's what we were looking at up front. Akufo, Mason Smith, Jacobian Guillory, and Savion Jones. On the outside at the starting cornerback positions today, which I was curious about and told you yesterday was one of the fall camp storylines I would be following because it's a lot of new guys and I don't know who's up on the pecking order. Well, today you had Deuce Chestnut on one side. You had Zy Alexander on the other. I figure, and I've been probably lazily comparing Deuce Chestnut to Jarek Bernard-Converse. Similar measurables. Playing at a league that I would consider a tick down from the SEC. In Bernard-Converse's case, it was the Big 12. In Chestnut's case, it's the ACC. But they were all conference players, and they've played a lot of football. I think that it makes a lot of sense that Deuce Chestnut would be out there wide as one of the starters. Zy Alexander, I've probably lazily compared to Colby Richardson because they were FCS players in the state of Louisiana. And the question is, can you make that step up, and can you be a contributor at LSU? And Zy Alexander's out there running with the ones today. Does that mean he's not going to be with the twos tomorrow? Nope, doesn't. But he was today. And so you're going, well, where's Denver Harris? And I was kind of thinking, where's Denver Harris? Well, he was running with the second team today. I don't think it's unfair to say that Denver Harris is the most talented cornerback that LSU has. I will lean on folks that do that for a living for all the recruiting services to tell me about his talent level, and I'll say that the fact that he was a mid-season freshman All-American last year at A&M before he couldn't get his head screwed on right and got suspended and wasn't allowed to play anymore would suggest similarly. But he was out there with the twos. Also playing in the secondary with the ones, Greg Brooks, Major Burns, and Sage Ryan, as you would probably expect. Major Burns has dropped down to number 8. He is no longer number 28. Greg Brooks still wearing that number 3, and Sage Ryan wearing 15. So those are guys you're familiar with. Those are veterans there in the back end. At the linebacker spot, I should say, Omar Spates and Harold Perkins were working in the middle of the field. So that would round out what was the first unit on defense. Up front, Agufo, Smith, Guillory, and Jones. On the outside at corner, Zy Alexander and Deuce Chestnut. At nickel, Sage Ryan. At safety, Greg Brooks and Major Burns. And in the middle of your defense, at linebacker, Omar Spates and Harold Perkins. I would say the most likely substitute there would be that Mekhi Wingo would be in there for Jacoby and Guillory. We'll see what Denver Harris's role is. LaTerrence Welsh was working as a second-teamer as well. Greg Penn took some reps alongside Harold Perkins as well. I think Penn, Spates, and Perkins are very likely your top tier of linebackers. You got the Weeks boys who we think are going to play, and you got some younger players that have come in as freshmen, and we'll see. We'll talk about a couple of those and meet the freshmen later today, Christian Brathwaite being one of them. But that's kind of the front end of the defense. And it's not a lot of surprises. And to me, it seems pretty talented. Like, that's a group I feel pretty good about. You look at Akufo, and he was a pretty good pass rusher in his time at Notre Dame and Texas. Not an all-conference guy, but had some productivity. We think Mason Smith's a star. Jacoby and Guillory's a depth piece. Mekhi Wingo got some All-American recognition. You feel good about that. You still got Jordan Jefferson. You still got Jalen Lee. You still got Paris Shand, who was out there. And then on the outside, you got Savion Jones, who is kind of the betting favorite to have that breakout year, that step-up year. He's got some talent. We've heard the staff say really good things about him. Not just the recruiting services, the staff has said that. And so you would figure he'd be a guy that would have a chance. I did see Deshaun Womack out there today. He is certainly big and physical, no question about that. But obviously running behind that group. You look on the outside, they're just going to have to figure that out. I've gone deep enough into that. And then you've got Brooks and Burns back at safety, which are proven commodities at this point. Burns has been in college for 3 years. Brooks is working on his 5th year. Like, you know what you're going to get from those two guys. They're going to be solid contributors. Do any of them play like Jamal Adams or Eric Reed? No. But they're going to be in the right place. They make tackles. I think they're good players. Sage Ryan's got to elevate. He's got to take a step up. There's high expectation on him because of his recruiting ranking. That's just the way things go. He hasn't quite met that in 2 years. He is fast and a little undersized when you talk about Adams and Reed and Delpit and those guys, but in the nickel, he should be able to play. And I think that tandem on the inside of Spates and Perkins just oozes potential. Spates tackled everything he looked at in the Pacific Northwest for a couple of years, and Perkins is a freak show. I'm watching SEC Network last night. Chris Doering's going over the biggest game wreckers in the SEC, and Harold Perkins is number 1. Incidentally, out at the Ponderosa, which a lot of you probably have never been to, the indoor practice facility, we were in there. One change this year, which doesn't really mean a hill of beans to the production of the team, but they did put a big Jumbotron on the wall, and it's constantly running highlights while LSU's doing practice. I don't know what the value in that is. I can see it if you've got recruits on a visit and you're showing them the facilities and you want to put that up there. It's got a bunch of banners hanging national champions and SEC champions and all that. But they did do that, and I've been going out there since 2010. That's 13 years I've been going out there. Never seen the Jumbotron on the sidewall, but they certainly had it out there today. So I wanted to start with the first team defense. That's what we saw today, and that's probably the biggest takeaway that I had, just to see those guys out there. We'll talk about some injuries moving forward. Armani Goodwin still banged up pretty good. Aaron Anderson still got a brace on his knee. So those are two guys that you noticed. John Emery wasn't out there. We'll talk about running backs a little bit later. But that was kind of my biggest takeaway. If you're in the Bayou Ford chat and you do have any questions about what we saw at practice today, I am more than happy to answer those in the chat, and I'll probably do so on the air a little bit as we move forward. But we're into practice season. We're into soundbite season. We're into football season. It feels good to finally get there. I sit there in June and I'm going, okay, how are we going to deal with this week and we'll deal with that week? Oh, there's media days. I'm going to have a vacation. Okay, and then there's camp, and we're there. The Saints are in, LSU's in, so we're full steam ahead here, and we'll have plenty of coverage. Matt was out there for the entirety of practice. He'll have a lot of updates on After Further View coming up today. You know that Hester and T-Bob will be out there when they can, so they'll certainly be all over it. So we're there here for football season in South Louisiana. Speaking of that, when we come back, we'll take a time out. We'll chat with Luke Johnson, talking Saints next.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
It's football season and it's storm season. And you don't even need a storm for your power to go out. Mine flickered 2 days ago. The last thing you want to have happen is LSU is playing Florida State, and you got a gang of people over to watch the game, but the weather's not great outside, and you lose power. It happened to me, the LSU-Tennessee opener of the College World Series. I had to go to a friend's house. Get a generator. Get a generator from Boudreaux's Electric. Boudreaux's Electric, owned for 40 years by Neil and Melissa Boudreaux. They're a certified Generac dealer. Not just that, they're a premier Generac dealer. Means they're in the top 3% nationwide. They still operate like an old school business like they have for 40 years, but they've got new age technology like monitoring software where they can monitor your generator 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If something fails, they'll know about it. They can come fix it. How comforting is that? Maybe you've left because there's a hurricane coming in and your generator's running to keep that fridge going and keep everything manageable in your home while you're away. And all of a sudden the generator fails for whatever reason. Boudreaux's Electric will know about it. They can come service that generator, get it back up and running so that you can get back to your home. It's the only way to live down here in South Louisiana with a generator because we understand what happens this time of year. Get your cell phone out right now. I'm going to give you the phone number for Boudreaux's Electric. I'll tell you it's the same phone number they've had for 40 years. Get your cell phone out, call Boudreaux's Electric today, and set up an opportunity to install a generator in your home. It's 985-397-1562. It's 985-397-1562. That is Boudreaux's Electric.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, live at lunch, Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $10,500 off MSRP on all new 23 Ram 1500 Laramie trucks in stock. All with Bayou's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
There it is, the extra mile. On the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further. Like vans customized for work or play. With safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has...
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Thursday's AFR, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana. Camp is here. We'll be out at LSU Fall Camp Day 1. We'll have a camp report, and you'll hear from Brian Kelly. Join us 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Thursday shows brought to you by Rouse's. Get on by for your groceries this evening. Rouse's in New Orleans, plenty of them. Speaking of New Orleans, we'll head out to the Jim's Firearms Hotline. It's that time of year. Bring back our guy Luke Johnson, the black and gold, on the practice field in training camp, and he has been there for the duration. Luke, welcome back. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Before we get started, though, I mean, it's been a couple months since we talked, and
yes,
I got to know, like, how many Bud Lights were deleted when LSU won the College World Series championship?
None of them in Omaha were safe. Not a single one of them. We made it work quite nicely. It was the trip of a lifetime. Me and my dad went up there, and it was very, very fun. Knocked down one Jello shot, plenty of domestics, though. It was quite good, quite good. And I hope you enjoyed it as well at home with the fam.
Yeah. My baby daughter, she wasn't a huge fan of college baseball during like the super regionals and everything, but I think once we got to the College World Series, she kind of chilled out a little bit, and we were able to watch literally everything. So I highly enjoyed it.
That's fantastic. The same exact thing was to be said for my 34-year-old wife, who was not a big fan of baseball when I was coming in a little intoxicated from regionals and super regionals about the College World Series. She was all in. Said she was crying in bed watching at the end of it. So basically the same thing as your baby. All right, let's talk some Saints. I've got my list here of things to talk about, but I'll just leave it open for you to start. Anything caught your eye through a week specifically?
Yeah, a number of things. I actually wrote something on this yesterday. I think there's four things that are really standing out to me right now. Number one, I think Dennis Allen is a lot more at ease going into his second year. He's got much more of a stamp on the franchise than he did going into last year, where it was pretty much he was trying to just drive Sean Payton's vehicle. He's got his staff, he's got his quarterback. I think he learned from his mistakes last year, and for his part, I think he's just a little bit more chill, a little bit more comfortable in his own skin. We'll see if that matters, but I think it's a positive sign in my opinion. I think Chris Olave is ready to have a big year. And oddly enough, I think that's because he's like not very much of a factor at practice. They're not throwing him the ball a lot. And I think it's just because they know what they got in him. They don't need to have him go out there and catch 20 balls at practice from Derek Carr. And when you see him run routes, he looks exactly like the guy last year, except bigger and stronger. And I think that's going to really aid him. I think he's going to be the top target in their passing game this year. Really excited for him. Trevor Penning, I think is just going to be kind of a work in progress as the season goes on. Like the physical skills are obvious. He's huge. I mean, like, a guy's huge when you walk into an NFL locker room and you're like, oh my God, that guy's massive. It's like he's way bigger than everybody else. And it's not just he's tall. It's like he looks like the mountain from Game of Thrones, right? He's just a giant human being, and he's a super athlete on top of that. So like those two things are going to make him probably like a plus run blocker, right? And I think he showed signs of that last year. But all that time he's missed, even though he's I think fully healthy, It's really not helping with his technique, and I think he's going to have some trouble against some of the premier pass rushers he's going to see this year. So it's something to keep an eye out on. And then, out of this rookie class, I really like the performances of Jake Haener and Brian Brzee so far. Brzee is just like he's such a huge dude, but he's so explosive. And I think he's a little bit behind as a run defender right now, but he could be that rare defensive tackle that comes in and makes a contribution right away as a pass rusher. You look back at the last 10 years in the NFL, and there's been 5 guys who've topped 5 sacks as a rookie interior pass rusher. I think he could be one of those guys. So I really like him. And Jake Haener, I think he's so poised, has such good command of the offense. And for all this talk about his arm strength and his size, that stuff has not been a problem for him. Like Ian Book was coming in here and he was checking down on every pass, right? And everybody's like, well, it's probably because he doesn't have the confidence in his arm. Like Jake Haener's coming in and just letting 30-yard ropes rip downfield, and he's overcoming whatever. He doesn't have this cannon for an arm, but he overcomes it by doing everything in time. And I think they've got something there. I think he's going to be a really good pro.
Well, that's a lot to chew on. So let me tick it off kind of one by one here. How much of Dennis Allen's comfort do you think is attributed to Derek Carr running his offense at this point instead of Jameis Winston?
I mean, I think that's a big part of it. But I also think that, it's really important for him to have his own staff, right? You look at his coaching staff now, and there's not very many holdovers from Sean Payton's time here, right? And I think he knows that his voice is the most important one in the room now. Yeah, he was here on staff with guys like Ryan Nielsen and Chris Richard, who had big, strong voices of their own in that room, and they commanded a lot of respect. They'd either had a lot of success in the NFL or they'd been here a long time. And I think he just is carrying himself like he is the head of the program. And it's a little bit different than the way he did it last year. I think there was maybe a little bit of deference just to the staff that has all been here so long. And I just think that last year was so challenging, and yet despite everything they went through, they were still somehow right there at the end. I mean, they were in a bad division, sure, but I think the way they finished last year has him a little bit more confident going into this year, especially now that he has his staff and his quarterback.
The next guy you mentioned was Olave, and I kind of want to put that juxtaposed against Michael Thomas and maybe the expectation on Michael Thomas this year. I heard the quote about he's got a huge chip on his shoulder, but what are the Saints going to ask him to be this year?
I think they're just going to ask him to be a cog in the wheel, which is really weird to say about Mike Thomas. But he has a ways to go to be the Mike Thomas that we last saw in 2019. It's understandable. The guy hasn't played ball in essentially 3.5 years. I think that the realistic expectations for him are just to be a part of the passing game rather than the focal point, the fulcrum that everything kind of goes around, right? I think that if he can just be the guy who comes in and gets 6-7 targets a game, catches 4 or 5 of them, moves the chains, comes up with some big clutch catches, I think that's really good for the Saints because I think they have a lot of really good weapons around them. I really like Juwan Johnson's game, and I think having Olave, Shaheed, and Mike Thomas and a heavier dose of Alvin Kamara in the passing game really opens things up for Juwan Johnson. I think Rashid Shaheed is not a flash in the pan. I think he's having a really good camp, and they're throwing him the ball a lot and letting him prove it. I think you got a better point guard back there at Derek Carr. So I don't think they need Mike Thomas to be AP Offensive Player of the Year Mike Thomas. But I think they need him to be a little bit better than he's been in camp, and I think he'll get there.
You mentioned Penning. Would you say that he's the favorite to be the starter at left tackle as he's going through these pains, and they just throw him into the fire? Or do you think they play Hurst?
No, I would be really, really surprised if they don't start him at left tackle. And honestly, I think Hurst is right now got the inside track to be the starting left guard.
Yeah.
I think Andres Pete is kind of the odd man out at this point. Look, they know they're going to have to deal with some growing pains with Penning, but the ceiling is so high. Like they have to let him learn on the job a little bit here. And everything I've heard about him from the coaching staff is that he is just a really, really, really fast learner. And despite the fact that he didn't have like any reps last year, outside of the 6 games he played in, I think he only started one of them. He's miles ahead of where he was last year, this year. But he's got a couple more steps to go. I mean, he's essentially still a rookie. So the talent is obvious. But yeah, I mean, the last time he played a full season, he was doing it against like Division II guys, and he wasn't going up against, the Cam Jordans of the world. So he's just got another step to make.
One of the guys that I haven't heard a lot about is Isaiah Foskey, the second rounder out of Notre Dame. What have you made of him early?
He's at this point like a developmental player, I think. I think that the thing is he's such a good athlete. I mean, you saw that at the combine that he was able to win with athleticism, and he needs more sophistication at the NFL level to win. He's been pretty consistently gobbled up by the offensive line here, and he's going up against second and third teamers. So I don't think that like he's a bust, right? But I don't think he's a guy that's going to help them early in this season. I think there's a good chance that he's going to be, probably a healthy scratch. So they've got some pretty good defensive linemen right now, with like 4 of them, I think. Cam Jordan, Carl Granderson, Peyton Turner, and Tano Passanio are all having a pretty good camp. And they're all 3 of those guys have been productive NFL players. I think there's still hope for Turner. So I think they can have a little bit of the luxury and let Foskey learn a little bit, and he needs it because he's behind right now.
Does that surprise you that he's that far behind? It's noticeable a week in.
Yeah. I was really high on him coming in, really high, because he was so productive at Notre Dame. I mean, it's just like across the board productive, and he fit all of the traits they look for. And say what you want about Peyton Turner and Marcus Davenport, but I think they've been pretty good at evaluating defensive linemen generally, right? They've had really, really good defensive line play for like 6 straight seasons. So I thought he was going to be a hit, and maybe he still will be, but he just needs some time. He really does.
Last thing I want to talk about here, Luke, and we appreciate your time. It's early, but anything on the Will Lutz kicking situation? It just hasn't been very good the last couple of years, and I know that they brought in the rookie. Is there anything to look at there?
Yeah, I mean, I think so, right? I think he's in a legitimate competition for his job. He wasn't good enough last year, and I think he would tell you that if you're getting him in an honest moment. It's just the nature of that position in the NFL is he could have like 10 straight All-Pro years. If you have a stretch of 4 or 5 bad games, people are gonna be like, oh, he's lost it. Maybe he's got the kicking yips. I don't know. So he has to come in and prove it. I think Will's had a really good camp. I think the competition's probably helped him, but I don't think he's a 100% surefire lock for that job. I still expect him to be the kicker, but I think the young guy they brought in out of Notre Dame, Blake Grupe, has had a pretty strong camp. He's got, for a guy who looks like he belongs on a middle school football field, he's got a really good leg. He hit one from like 54 the other day. So, I mean, Will's got to be good, and he's got to be good in the preseason games. He's got to continue to be good in camp. I think if he shows any signs of struggling, I think it could be a bad time for him.
Good to have you back, sir. We'll talk next week.
Sounds good, Hunt. Thanks, man.
Luke Johnson, Saints beat writer for theadvocate.com, @ByLukeJohnson on Twitter. They got a newsletter that comes out every day that you can catch with a bunch of Saints camp information. If that's what you're looking for, if you're looking for Saints, you can catch us on Saints, or me specifically. Hunt on Saints is our new YouTube channel that we've launched, trying to get the subscriber count up. If you want your Saints coverage, like that segment right there will be clipped and pasted right there. It's 10 minutes. Easy listen. And it can be right to your homepage on YouTube if you subscribe to Hunt on Saints on YouTube. We've also got Hunt on LSU, if that's what you're looking for as well. LSU football each and every day on our YouTube channel, so we appreciate y'all. Still plenty to get to here on our Thursday show, brought to you by Rouse's. When we come back, college football ifs list, basically a what-if Wednesday, but for all these teams in college football. What does LSU need to win a national championship? ESPN gives their opinion. That's next.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
One way or another, we're all affected by cancer. And Oxford and MD Anderson are doing their part to make sure that's not the case moving forward. Ochsner Health and MD Anderson have partnered to create Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. It's the first and only provider in Louisiana with a fully integrated cancer program that's based on MD Anderson's practice standards and treatment plans. They've got access to MD Anderson's protocols, their practice standards, and direct access to MD Anderson's specialists and researchers. So in that, the Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center's got groundbreaking research and innovative therapies. They're offering access to select clinical trials to eligible patients, and it's all over our state and this region. They've got expert care in 7 different locations across New Orleans, St. Tammany, East Baton Rouge. We've got the Gail and Tom Benson Cancer Center that's down in New Orleans, Ochsner Medical Center over in Kenner. They've got the Ochsner Cancer Center here in Baton Rouge, and they're going to work together to certify additional sites moving forward, which is really exciting for our area. If you want more information, you can go to Ochsner.org. It is the Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. You can find it at Ochsner.org.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want it. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
Make this summer your backyard party year with Chris's Specialty Foods. Wings, burgers, brisket, steak, and boudin, plus great Cajun side dishes. We do all the prep, and you enjoy laughing with friends and family. Chris's Specialty Foods, Millerville, New Orleans, Prairieville, and Frisco.
Everybody loves Chris's authentic Cajun meat.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good looking neighborhood.
Haniger, join us for Live at Lunch Friday from Ruffino's on Highland Road. Bruce Marshall is with us, and Jimmy's back from vacation with a lot of football going on. Live at Lunch, 11 a.m. weekdays on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Shout out to Luke Johnson for jumping aboard, talking a little Saints. Our Thursday show is brought to you by Rouse's. Get on by for your weekend groceries today. It's grilling season. They got steaks back there. One on Burbank and Lee that we spend a lot of time at on Fridays has an awesome meat selection in the back. They've got your burgers that are pre-made or your ground beef. They've got delicious ribeyes, delicious fillets. They got your pork chops. They got it all back there at Rouse's. Get on by. Get your food for this evening or for the weekend. And certainly as we move into football season for tailgate, no better spot than Rouse's to make it happen. They're going to be hosting our game day shows this weekend with Charlie pregame all season long. All right, list on ESPN. It is list season. Well, it's not really a list. It's kind of just a big piece on the elite teams in college football, and that's mostly what we care about. I probably won't tell you about Minnesota or Washington State much this year. We're probably not going to spend a lot of time on South Florida. I don't know that Boston College will get a lot of airtime on this show, but the elite of the elite, we will. And I'll get to LSU here in a second, but Bill Connolly wrote a story with some really detailed stats that I don't have access to and don't really want to have access to, that I think are interesting. And it gives the what-ifs for each team to try to win a national championship. Georgia, he's got 2 what-ifs, and they're pretty obvious. One is if Carson Beck is ready. That's the heir apparent to Stetson Bennett's throne here. Former 4-star, been there for a couple of years, and he's going to take the reins. If he's ready to roll, obviously Georgia has a good chance. But the other piece to this, and I think this is one that a lot of folks around the SEC are curious about, is Mike Bobo ready too? Because Mike Bobo has been kind of average where he's been. So you got a new quarterback and a new offensive coordinator. I don't think anybody's got any questions about whether or not Georgia's going to play defense. I don't think there's any question whether or not Georgia's got good players. But those good players aren't going to be put to much good use if your quarterback can't get him the ball or your offensive coordinator can't figure out what he's doing. So I think that's pretty reasonable and pretty predictable. The next team they have is Alabama, and we're working towards LSU here. And obviously we know the number one what-if for Bama is the quarterback. Who's it going to be? Is it Jalen Milroe? Is it Ty Simpson? Is Tyler Buckner the guy? We're not going to spend any time on that. We already know that's a big deal for Alabama. But what I didn't realize about Alabama last year is that their offensive line wasn't great by this metric. I don't watch tape after the games are over. I'm not going to fire up the Bama A&M end zone cut and chop it up and give you the details, but ESPN is. And this was an interesting piece. It said the Crimson Tide ranked 123rd in blown run block rate and 110th in offensive line penalties per game. Those are awful, awful numbers. Remember, college football's only got 130 some odd teams. It's not like college basketball. It's got 300 and something, where if you're 100 and something, you're top third, whatever. You're not great at it, but you're fine. You're in the hundreds in college football. That's not good. That's bad. And it sounds like Bama's offensive line production was bad. I remember them getting penalized a lot last year. I don't remember them whiffing a lot of run blocks. They were 78th in pressure rate allowed and 60th in stuff rate allowed, and that just means they weren't in the top 60 in creating pass protection and creating running lanes. That's not good. And you know they got a bunch of 5-stars up there. They're not going to trot out a bunch of, underprepared guys. They just played really poorly last year, and I don't know that I recalled that. And then you go to what if for Alabama on the defensive side of the ball, if the defensive front finds some extra push. We know that Tim Anderson's gone, but look, they got to fill those holes. And Dallas Turner, for as talented as he is and as high as his draft stock may be, he only had 3 sacks last year. And last year, Alabama allowed at least 4 yards on 50% of their runs. That was 83rd in the country. So you're looking for guys to fill Will Anderson's shoes on the pass rushing side. You think it's Dallas Turner, but you got to stop the run too. I didn't realize Alabama wasn't that good in the trenches last year, and that probably lends itself to being in a dogfight against Texas, being in a dogfight against A&M, being in a dogfight against Tennessee, being in a dogfight against LSU. Just hadn't quite been the level of domination we're accustomed to, and those stats kind of paint that picture. Michigan. What do they need to get over the hump? Because I believe they can do it. I think there are probably some of you that are listening and going, they're not in Georgia's class. Like, they got dusted 2 years ago, and then they couldn't beat TCU. Like, they're a pretender. And, I get that. I get where you're coming from. I'm not going to tell you that's dead wrong. I'm just telling you, I believe there are haves and have-nots in college football, and Michigan, in my opinion, is the have. I know Detroit's not churning out a lot of 5 stars, but they go to Ohio and recruit well. They can go into Florida and grab some guys, and Jim Harbaugh has done that, and they've played really good football against Ohio State the last 2 years, and Ohio State unequivocally has the guys that can do it. They had Georgia on the ropes last year. So what does Michigan need to get over the hump? Well, it says the receiving core has got to improve. Okay, gotcha. J.J. McCarthy is still there. Said, if another coordinator change doesn't backfire, with offensive coordinator Matt Weiss fires for computer access crimes. Remember that? Michigan's offensive coordinator got fired for digging in computer files. Michigan's dealing with the coordinator change of sorts for the 3rd straight year. So fellow co-coordinator Sharon Moore just removed the co from his name this time, but Weiss had a major role in play calling, and constant change near the top of the pecking order can backfire eventually. So does removing your offensive coordinator hurt Michigan? And then it says the pass rush holds up. Michigan's done a great job of recruiting on the defensive line and putting those guys in the NFL. I would imagine it probably will. And Ohio State's the next team before we get to LSU, and I'll briefly talk about it. If the secondary's breakdowns are a little less devastating, Ohio State went 12-0 against non-CFP teams last year and nearly beat Georgia in the semis. But the 2 losses to Georgia and Michigan, the Buckeyes gave up 8 gains of 45-plus yards and 3 of 75-plus. Big plays much? Not great for the Buckeyes. Jim Knowles is in his 2nd year. You know, they brought him over from Oklahoma State where he did a really good job. So we'll see. They're talking about quarterback play at Ohio State. Kyle McCord, Devin Brown's going to be your guy there. And they've got new tackles as well. So those are your what-ifs for Ohio State. But with LSU, here are some interesting statistics that I think they've dug up that I don't know that I was 100% aware of. So for LSU, they can win a title if some more big plays arrive. And that's something we know about. Brian Kelly's Tigers won the SEC West because of stellar efficiency. The Tigers went 3 and out only 16% of the time. That was 3rd best in college football. And they forced 3 and outs on 36% of the time. They dominated the red zone, too. They scored touchdowns 72% of their trips, and they only allowed them on 50, which was 20th in the country. They've got to get some more big plays, and they didn't have that as much last year. They were 97th in the country in allowing big plays, and they were 41st in the country in creating big plays. We know why. Too many quarterback runs and not taking chances down the field. That's why LSU didn't go 3 and out a lot, because you're not trying to force balls down the field that could be incomplete. You're just picking up what's there and moving the chains. And there's something to be said for that. And having that in your arsenal is a very good thing. But you've got to push the ball down the field. We know that. The second what if for LSU, if an ever-changing defensive line pushes back. The LSU defense improved from 39th to 23rd in defensive SP plus last year. You don't have to worry about what that means, but they got better by this advanced metric. But the Tigers were 88th in rushing success rate and gave up more than 200 rushing yards 5 times. 201 to Southern. That was who cares about that one, but 4 times. So Kelly's brought in tackle transfers, Jordan Jefferson, Jalen Lee, Mason Smith returns, Omar Spates is back. They got to stop teams from running for 200 yards, which happened 4 times, and we all know what happened in College Station last year is unacceptable. That was just a manhandling. And Georgia ran the football on them, and they've got to do a better job of stopping the run. And they did it at points. They did a good job against Auburn for the most part of stopping the run. They didn't let Jahmyr Gibbs run wild. But there were too many times where things got going, and that's why LSU was in the 60s, in the 80s in rushing success rate defensively. And the last one was if the Tigers improved significantly on passing downs. It says, despite the breakout stardom from freshman Harold Perkins and despite taking few risks from a blitzing standpoint, LSU ranked a dismal 80th in passing down success rate allowed on defense and gave up a ton of chunk plays in the process. So when you get into passing downs, I'm assuming they would characterize as 3rd and 5 and more, 2nd and 8 or more, 1st and 10. That's what I'm guessing passing downs are. LSU wasn't good defensively. It said as good as they were as knocking opponents off schedule, the Tigers let opponents off the hook far too much. Look, I thought the defense was good last year, and I can point to shutting Mississippi State out in the second half and shutting Ole Miss out in the second half, shutting Auburn out in the second half, playing great defense against Alabama in the second half. Like, they had a lot of games. They did a pretty good job against Florida State in the second half. Not helped out by a couple of issues in that game, but like most of the time they were pretty good at making adjustments. But Jordan Travis did dice them up on third downs, no question about it. A&M got it to third and short, and they beat you up on it. So there's some advanced metrics that I don't have the access to, but what they're saying basically is you got to make some more big plays in the passing game. You've got to do a better job of stuff rate on the defensive line, and you've got to improve significantly on passing downs. And to me, that's really good coverage and a pass rush that's got to show up. And LSU didn't do a great job of rushing the passer from the middle of the field last year with Wingo and Roy. They didn't have a lot of pressures and sacks. They did a good job against the run, and we're pretty good. But maybe Mason Smith gives you a little bit more of that. They can be more creative with Harold Perkins, and you need some of those guys on the edge, whether it's Oghoufo, whether it's Savion Jones. Some of those guys, Braden Swinson, somebody's got to step up and help rush the passer. And they've certainly got to have that. So I thought that was an interesting look at some what-ifs for college football teams and how they win a national championship. When we come back, I'll tell you some of the things I saw from the running backs today. That's next.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
One Bath and Closets, onebathandclosets.com is the website. How much would your life change with a brand new closet customized for you? Probably got a bunch of clutter. A lot of us do. Maybe shoes all over the place. Can't fit all your clothes. Just lacking a little space. David Vaughn and his team can handle that. They can also handle a full-scale bathroom renovation or a tub-to-shower conversion in your bathroom. And I've been telling you about the great special they've got for Hunt Palmer listeners. It just got better. You like saving money? I do. 10% off. 10% off if you do your shower and your closet. If you do a combo deal with One Bath and Closets, they are going to save you 10% in the end. You won't know what they can do for you unless you get the free consultation. Go to onebathandclosets.com. Get the free consultation. Let David Duvall and his team come over, show you what they can do. That didn't cost you a penny. And if you decide to go through with the shower and the bathroom, look at that, 10% off if you're a listener of the Hunt Palmer Show, which you are. I appreciate y'all, and we appreciate One Bath and Closets. Check out the website, onebathandclosets.com.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
The world's leaders in obesity research, obesity medicine, and obesity science are right here.
We're doing something that no one's ever done or trying to answer a question that no one's ever asked before.
Pennington is a real jewel when it comes to research.
We are finding the solutions to the world's worst chronic disease, which is obesity. Louisiana needs Pennington Biomedical.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving.
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Thursday's AFR, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana. Camp is here. We'll be out at LSU Fall Camp Day 1. We'll have a camp report, and you'll hear from Brian Kelly. Join us 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
So LSU Fall Camp cranked up today. We were out there. I was there for about 45 minutes, came on back to get ready to do the show. But I want to talk about the running backs here briefly at the end of hour number 1 and what I saw, because I thought it was probably the most noteworthy in terms of news. John Emery was not at practice today. Brian Kelly was asked about John Emery after practice, said he had an internship today. He will be at practice tomorrow, and they are a full go, and he's excited about that. So that's great to hear for John Emery. I think it was perfectly acceptable for him to take a spring to get his academics in order. That's the most important thing for him. I don't know that he can count on a 21-year NFL career coming up here, so get your grades in order. And it sounds like he's done that, done everything they asked him to do. Brian Kelly said he's been wonderful to work with, so good for John that he'll be out there tomorrow. One of the players that was out there was Armani Goodwin. He had a sizable brace on his left knee, and when they were practicing the read options and he took the football and just ran through no defense, just right up the practice field, he's limping big time. I mean, there's just no other way to say it. He's, in my opinion, not close. I'm not a doctor. I have no medical update. I'm just looking with my 2 eyes. I got a running back with a huge knee brace on that's limping through a non-contact drill. That doesn't seem awesome to me. But you did see some guys that were out there and were healthy. And I'll tell you this, Caleb Jackson's a big dude. He really is a big guy. He looks almost as big a running back as LSU has. He's certainly the tallest. Noah Cain is a little more filled out, but Caleb Jackson is a big young man, and there's a reason why he was a big 4-star recruit, and I think a guy that could have a very bright future. I was encouraged by the size, and that's really all I can tell. He runs pretty well, and he's got pretty good size. Logan Diggs is a little more slender than I thought. I'm looking at YouTube videos from Notre Dame. I didn't watch a lot of Notre Dame last year. It's not like he's skinny. He's not rail thin, can't go out there and play. I'll always, when I talk about guys that we see for the first time and go, how thin is that guy? Rashard Robinson's the one that come to mind. Look, Logan Diggs doesn't look like Rashard Robinson, the old cornerback at LSU who was 155 pounds, what it looked like when he showed up, and he's still out there playing man-to-man on Julio Jones. Or was that Julio Jones or Mari Cooper? It was one of those big Bama receivers he had in the second half of one of those games. But Logan Diggs just a little more slender than I thought he would be, but certainly has been a productive college back, and I still expect him to be a very productive college back. So that's kind of the big stories from the running back. You had an absence there. You had a guy who's coming back from injury, and the rest of the guys looked pretty healthy. The last injury update that I'll give you from what we saw today was Aaron Anderson, who was hurt at Alabama last year, former 5-star recruit from Carr, went to Bama, now has come back. Small slot receiver. He also had a brace on his left knee, significantly smaller than the one that Armani Goodwin had on. I would almost go as far as to say that Aaron Anderson had a sleeve on his knee, and he looked fine. He was running through all the routes, doing the stops, running the posts, looked fluid coming out of breaks. I think he's perfectly fine to do that. Mike Evans, that's a good call, Juice 2042. That was Rashard Robinson, had Mike Evans. I knew it was a big physical receiver, and then I said Julio Jones, and I went, no, they weren't lined up. Mike Evans is correct, and I was shocked to see Rashard Robinson draw that assignment as a freshman. But that's the point. He was rail thin. That's not what I'm saying about like Logan Diggs. He's just not as imposing as I thought he might be. So lots of running backs out there. And then your last interview update, as I said, Aaron Anderson looks to be healthy, just precautionary, got the sleeve on, and he'll continue to move forward, and I think should be a big contributor on this team. Brian Kelly talked about him in his press conference, and you'll hear all the sound from Brian Kelly on Matt's show a little bit later today. Our Thursday shows all football season long, brought to you by Rouse's. Get on by Rouse's today. I'm going to get by Rouse's tomorrow because my wife's going to Taylor Swift tomorrow. So I'm solo with the kiddo. I'm put him down, and we're doing steaks for Dad. So I'm going to get by Rouse's for that for sure. We got a lot to come in hour number 2 as well. Some more LSU fall camp to talk about. When we come back, position you. Is LSU DBU? I'll tell you.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $10,500 off MSRP on all new 23 Ram 1500 Laramie trucks in stock. All with Bayou's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
The importance of doing this Fortified program and offering it to people down here is, number one, the only real chance you're going to get to do this is when you put on a new roof or build new. And through companies like HUDCO, who's kind of leading the way in this thing, it's going to offer the customers a huge advantage in the insurance market and the price of their insurance.
You know, we're not looking to make a fortune off fortifying. We're trying to give you a better product than our competitor at the moment. I'm trying to do something that he can. I'm trying to give you something better. So a lot of these insurance shops, you're getting a re-roof, you're only paying your deductible. Let's sit down and talk about the Fortified and let's see what it does to your insurance premium. You're getting a steal.
Yeah.
You're getting a brand new roof and a Fortified certificate for your deductible, essentially. And I think we're rocking and rolling.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
is SportsCenter.
I'm Doug Brown. The NFL preseason kicks off tonight with the Hall of Fame game in Canton, Ohio. The Jets featuring new quarterback Aaron Rodgers against the Browns and Deshaun Watson in his first full season as the Cleveland starter. ESPN's Damian Woody.
Pressure is clearly Aaron Rodgers, right? Because obviously when you make that type of move, what's the signal that you're sending as an organization is we're ready. We're ready to compete with the Kansas City, the Cincinnati Bengals, the Buffalo Bills to try to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl.
Damian Woody. Broncos linebacker Jonas Griffith will miss the season with a torn ACL. He got hurt in Tuesday's practice. Griffith started 8 games for Denver last year. First baseball final of the day, the Phillies beat the Marlins 4-2. JT Realmuto with a 2-run homer. The Braves already have the best record in baseball, and tomorrow they get their ace back on the mound. Lefty Max Fried will start Friday's game against the Cubs. It'll be just his 6th start of the season. He's been out almost 3 months with a left forearm strain.
Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. They're close, convenient, and have the parts you need fast, along with excellent customer service from professional parts people you can trust. Stop by your local O'Reilly Auto Parts today or visit O'ReillyAuto.com.
Now, Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Holding down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge Studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour number 2 on a Thursday, working towards the weekend. Hope your week has been going great. Appreciate you hanging out with us on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Fun first hour. Thursday show is brought to you by Rouse's. Hour 2 coming at you. Plenty to get to over the next hour and change. We'll meet the freshmen coming up next. We're going to get some sound from Derek Carr as well. Potential rule change in the NFL that I want to get to in this hour as well. But this article comes out every year on ESPN, and I find it kind of fascinating because they go through a lot of history and statistics and data and kind of compile things up, and then they get everybody's panties in a wad, for lack of a better term, because everybody gets all upset. It's Position U. Around here, we like to talk about DBU, and if I say linebacker U, you probably think Penn State, and there's places that claim all kinds of stuff, and ESPN said, all right, well, we'll put some data behind it. So what ESPN does is they've combed through data since 1998. So you're looking at 25 years worth of data. And they look at every school, and they look at college production by way of all conference honors, all American honors. They look at the NFL draft and where players are selected, and they even look at NFL production through a player's first 5 years. And that's how they come to look at positions and say that's QBU or tight end U or DBU. So I'll say a position, and you kind of give some thoughts of who you think is number 1 there. Quarterback U, since 1998. Who do you think has got that? Well, I'll tell you that USC is second. Oregon is third. You start to think about Joey Harrington and Marcus Mariota. Darren Thomas had a really good run there at Oregon as well. Then you look at Justin Herbert, what he's done. Like, okay, that makes sense. Alabama's at 4, Ohio State 5, Texas 6. Incidentally, LSU comes in at number 10 on this list since 1998. Mock had a pretty good run at it. Of course, Jamarcus being the first pick in the draft helps you a lot there. Burrow being the first pick in the draft helps you a lot there. You had Matt Flynn sign a couple of contracts in the NFL as well. But number 1 on QBU is Oklahoma, and that makes a ton of sense. Jason White won the Heisman in 2003, as we know. Sam Bradford won the Heisman. Baker Mayfield won the Heisman. Kyler Murray won the Heisman. You rack up 4 Heisman winners at one position, and you probably stake claim to that QBU claim. Running back U is the Alabama Crimson Tide, and as I saw that, I went, I bet LSU is close to the top of that. And LSU is close to the top. They're number 3 in that list. You go back from 1998, you can pile up Dominic Davis. You can look at Brandon Tofield, who played in the NFL. Of course, Hester had a good run of it. Stephen Ridley played in the NFL. Joseph Adai, even before that, who I missed. No Fournette, Geis, Clyde Edwards-Helaire went in the first round as well. So I thought that's a pretty good resume. But you look at Bama with Jahmyr Gibbs, Najee Harris, Brian Robinson, Josh Jacob, Damian Harris, Derrick Henry, Kenyon Drake, TJ Yeldon, Eddie Lacy, Trent Richardson, Mark Ingram. That's going to be tough to deal with. The one school between LSU and Bama is Wisconsin on this list. I'm not going to argue with that. Ron Dane, Jonathan Taylor, Moneyball, you go for a long time, and they had guys getting votes, going to New York, first-round picks, big NFL production. I'm not going to qualm with that, although LSU does stake a solid claim to the number 3 spot there at running back U. Wide receiver U, I thought we had a chance there. I'm going back to 98, and I'm going, all right, we got Reed, we got Clayton, we got Bo, we got Buster Davis went in the first round. Beckham and Landry were fantastic. DJ Chark's had a nice little go. Russell Gage had a nice little go. And you move forward, and Chase wins the Biletnikoff, and that's pretty good. Like, that's a salty run of wide receivers. But LSU 3 in wide receiver U behind Ohio State. You all know, of course, Michael Thomas has been pretty good. Marvin Harrison Jr. been pretty good. And I didn't mention Justin Jefferson throughout the LSU thing. But Ohio State number 2. Number 1 is USC. Jordan Addison, Drake London, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Michael Pittman, Juju Smith-Schuster. It's a pretty good list, although I think LSU stacks up pretty well with just about anybody on that list. So at this point, LSU, number 10 at quarterback, number 3 at running back, number 3 at wide receiver. That'll do. Tight ends, LSU doesn't quite make the list. But I'll tell you who does make the list on tight ends. As you might imagine, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish at number 2. And you start to look at some of the tight ends that we're looking at in Baton Rouge and what we expect to see in the near future with the way Mason Taylor played and what the talent I saw with Kamorian Pimpton today, who looks great. Jackson McGowan can really run. Mac Markway is out there. You've got some younger players. You just got LaFleur committed 2 years from now. Like, you've got a pipeline of tight ends, and I would expect LSU's tight end production to be pretty good. Notre Dame number 2 on this list, and that's, a good chunk of that is thanks to Brian Kelly. Offensive line, I did not expect LSU to be on that. Interestingly enough, as we went through and I was talking about Brian Kelly's pedigree with all those first-rounders, he said 3 in the last since 2014, 3 second-rounders, 3 third-rounders, and LSU only had just Ethan Posick in the second round. Just haven't produced a lot of All-American and first-round, second-round offensive linemen. Like, you've had some guys that have had a good go at it. Joe Barksdale had a really nice career. Trey Turner's been a really nice player in the NFL. Unfortunately, got hurt this year. You've seen Lloyd Cushenberry get drafted and make some starts. Posick has had a nice little run there as well. Gerald Hawkins got drafted by the Steelers and played a little bit. Like, there have been some guys. It just hasn't been as consistent as some of the other names. When I'm rattling off some of the skill position players I was naming, like, your offensive linemen aren't stacking up to that. That's something LSU has got to change. Go to defensive line. That's where Alabama stakes their claim. LSU is down at number 7 on that list. Linebacker U, the Georgia Bulldogs, a lot of that is pretty recent. And LSU does not find itself on linebacker U either. I mean, they've had some really good ones. I think Devin White's pretty good. I think Kevin Minter's pretty good. Those guys have been awesome. You had, Kelvin Shepard had a great NFL career, for sure. Brady James was an All-American in this time frame, as was Trev Falk. There have been some good ones, but you're not looking at number 1. And Penn State down to number 4 on this list after they had kind of staked that claim for like 20 years. But in the recruiting era and the 5-star era, you're looking at Alabama and Georgia, and they've kind of dwarfed them there at 1 and 2, Ohio State as well. And that leaves us with defensive back university, doesn't it? We know Florida likes to chirp. We know Ohio State likes to chirp. Alabama's got a stake to this claim. They've got a lot of 5 stars and have put a lot of guys in the draft in the first round. Now, some of them haven't worked out as well. But the question is, who's number 1? Well, Florida's number 4 on this list, as they're combining college production, all-conference, all-Americans, NFL draft picks, first 5 years of the NFL career. Florida comes in at number 4. Number 3 on this list is the Ohio State Buckeyes. They have had an unbelievable run of defensive backs. There's no doubt about that. The Saints have employed like half of them. Number 2 on this list the Alabama Crimson Tide, which leaves number 1 DBU, according to ESPN, your Fighting Tigers of LSU. I mean, we can go through the list. You back up, you can predate Corey Webster, and you can go back to Ryan Clark at this point when he was early in his NFL career and through his time at LSU. And then it gets to Webster and Daniels and LaRon Landry. You hand it over to some of the elite guys that were on the 2007 championship team. Craig Stelz had a nice go in the NFL, and Chevis Jackson was a great college player, and Xenon, awesome play that he made in the SC championship game, and you funnel into the Pat Pete years and Morris Claiborne and Tyrann Mathieu, and you know the names, but it's fun to go through them. And even some of the unheralded guys like Jalen Mills has hung around for a long time. Ron Brooks had a nice NFL career and wasn't even, I mean, he was dwarfed on that 2011 team. That 2011 team, when they took the field, it was Eric Reed, it was Morris Claiborne, it was Tyrann Mathieu, it was Thorold Simon, and then you had, just get on there, Ron. Tyrann Mathieu suspended against Auburn, go play, pick 6. Played in the NFL and special teams for a number of years. It's crazy the talent that has rolled through there. And you got Greedy Williams, got Stingley, Delpit. You had, obviously, Fulton. So I couldn't pull. I was thinking Rummel, thinking Titans. I'm getting everywhere but LSU. Christian Fulton. So, look, it's objective truth. You don't have to listen to me, the LSU homer, yell and scream here on a lovely Thursday. You've got ESPN doing it for you. It's the subtle says we have an official title holder for DBU. It's been an intensely close battle between LSU and Ohio State for years, with Alabama and Florida in the mix too. But the Tigers take the top spot in 2023. Credit a solid debut season from Derek Stingley Jr., who is one of 8 LSU defensive backs drafted since the team's 2019 national championship. You heard that right. 8 DBs drafted since the 2019 national championship. Major Burns could be the next in line for LSU, but they'll have to survive plenty of pressure from the Buckeyes and a host of SEC rivals who want to retain the top spot. I'll take it. DBU in Baton Rouge. You know what else is in Baton Rouge and all over Louisiana? Rouse's. They're bringing you our Thursday shows. Get on by there for every bit of your grocery needs this weekend. They've got all the wines and spirits that you may need in the back. They've got party trays with sandwiches and fruits and all the kind of things you may need for your for a party you may be having. And if you just need groceries like me this weekend, get on by Rouse's. There's obviously one at a location near you. They bring you our Thursday shows. Still plenty over the next 45 minutes here on the Hunt Palmer Show. When we come back, we will meet the freshmen and we will hear from Derek Carr and Saints Camp. That's next.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Oh, hey, what's up? It's Big D and Bubba, 100.7 The Tiger Morning Show. We'd love for you to join us every weekday, 4 a.m. till 9 a.m.
Yeah, everything you want in a show. Country music. We got laughs. We got celebrity in-studio guests. We just need you.
Join us every weekday morning, 4 a.m. to 9 a.m., right where it all started.
That's right. Louisiana's country station, 100.7 The Tiger.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this.
Henniger, join us for Live at Lunch Friday from Rufino's on Highland Road. Bruce Marshall is with us, and Jimmy's back from vacation with a lot of football going on. Live at Lunch, 11 a.m. weekdays on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Moving right along here, Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, working towards the weekend. Hope your week has been a good one. Certainly has been here. We've been talking a lot of football, and that is a good thing. It is talking season. It is quote season. We'll hear from Derek Carr here shortly, but we were out there at LSU fall camp as they cranked things up this morning, and we saw a lot of freshmen, so let's meet a couple.
Meet the freshmen. Freshmen, meet the freshmen. They're the newest Tigers on the team.
Couple more today. We'll stick on the defensive side of the ball with both. Jeremiah Hughes is first, 6 foot, 181-pound cornerback from Bishop Gorman in Las Vegas. Bishop Gorman kind of been in the mix for LSU over the last 3 or 4 years. Mwani Wilkinson went to Bishop Gorman in Las Vegas. LSU had a commitment from Justin Crawford, who was never going to come to school in baseball, but he went to Bishop Gorman in Vegas as well. And Jeremiah Hughes, a Bishop Gorman product as well. You want to hear something about Bishop Gorman High School football? They won the state championship game last year by the final score of 70-6. That's pretty good. It's not as good as winning 13 of 15 state championships. That's what they've done in the last 15 years. You think Curtis is good? Think Evangel had a good run? West Monroe's been pretty salty. Good run for Haynesville in like the 90s. We've had a lot of really good programs in Louisiana. Carr's been great. STM's had a good run. Nobody's rattling off 13 of 15 like Bishop Gorman has done in the state of Nevada. Now, I think it's a good thing that he comes from a winning program. Now, Tate Martell was the quarterback there too, and that wasn't exactly awesome in his college career. So I'm not saying that everybody that comes from a winning program adopts a winning culture and is a huge piece to winning, but I do think they coach their players well there. I think they've got a good system of strength training. They've got money and resources, and they travel and play games all over the country. I think it's a good environment to help an athlete develop. And Jeremiah Hughes was certainly in that. He's a consensus 3-star prospect. He was offered by Utah, offered by Arkansas, offered by Washington. I read a story. He came down in October of last year and had an awesome visit. We're used to, around here, the big 5-star national defensive back signee. We're used to Delpit from out of state, Jacoby Stevens from out of state, Kevin Todd from out of state, Eli Ricks from out of state, like the dudes in the country that are 5-star that come in to Baton Rouge. And this is not that in terms of the recruiting rankings. But he does have a good frame at 6 feet. He does weigh about 185 pounds now, and I don't think that he needs to play right away. We looked out there today, and you had a lot of veterans. Deuce Chestnut is a veteran. Zy Alexander is a veteran. Sage Ryan is a veteran. Greg Brooks is a veteran. Denver Harris is in his second year. He's not I wouldn't say he's a vet. He hadn't played a ton of football, but he's certainly older than Jeremiah Hughes. And I would assume that Javian Toviano would be a guy that would be in front of him in his class. I would imagine that he's kind of on the level with Ashton Stamps, who we talked about a couple days ago. And then in his class, on the safety side, you got Ryan Yates, you got Kylan Jackson. So they brought in a healthy amount of freshman defensive backs into the program, which they had to do. You can't keep relying on the transfer portal every single year to go get juniors that are about to leave. You've got to go get some freshmen who might stick around that you can develop. And the hope is that they have done that. Now, Jeremiah Hughes is not chief among them, I wouldn't say, but a guy that they can bring in the program and hopefully develop, as he's not going to be asked to do a ton this year. So that's one, Jeremiah Hughes in our Meet the Freshman today. The second is Christian Brathwaite. Christian Brathwaite, 6'1". He was listed at 205 out of high school. He's listed at 217 now. As a junior in high school, he got banged up and was hurt. But his senior year, he was really, really good over in Houston. He had 104 tackles, 12 TFLs, had 9 sacks. He blocked a kick. I like to see that guys block a kick. It shows me a little burst, a little explosiveness. And Brathwaite certainly needs that because he's not the 235-pound linebacker that sometimes you can grab. He's closer to 215 pounds. But he was pretty highly rated by 247 and ESPN. ESPN had him as the 12th best linebacker in the nation. Rivals had him at 23rd best linebacker in the nation. He was a commitment to Dave Aranda and Baylor, which I kind of like, quite frankly. I think Dave Aranda does a really good job evaluating. And while I wouldn't necessarily say that recruiting is his forte, I would suggest that he knows what he's looking at. And it's two different things to identify talent and to get it on campus. And Dave got the commitment. He just didn't make it stick. Tennessee offered, Texas Tech offered, but inevitably he flipped to LSU in October. I look at the LSU linebacking core at this point, and Omar Spates is the only senior that LSU has. You expect him to start. You expect him to be a dude for you this year, but everybody else is younger. Now, Greg Penn's been around a lot, and Harold Perkins is only going to play 3 years, so not like everybody's a freshman that's got a bunch of runway here, but I would imagine the only guy that's leaving after this year would be Spates. So it's a little bit of a logjam at linebacker. I don't expect to see a ton of Brathwaite, but if he's a guy that can run and tackle a little bit, which it appears he is, at 220, vying to play linebacker and making 104 tackles, would it stun me to see him play some special teams, especially like on kickoff? It would not. I think there's a chance of that. So neither guy I talked about today figures in significantly to the starting lineup at LSU this year. But obviously a couple of guys the staff identified, thinks they found something, and we'll just have to see. But you probably didn't know much about those two guys. Maybe you learned something over the last 5 minutes about Jeremiah Hughes and Christian Brathwaite. That's Meet the Freshman here on a Thursday. Our Thursday show is brought to you by Rouse's. Get on by Rouse's for your weekend groceries today. They're all over Louisiana, born right there in Thibodaux, and they will be home to our LSU pregame shows, Eagle 98.1 Game Day, all football season long. We transition here over to the Saints. Derek Carr met with the media yesterday and just kind of gave an update on a few things. I wanted to start it on, look, this is a new place. You were in Oakland for a long time. You were in Vegas for a short time. Now you're in New Orleans. What's it like?
Yeah, I feel like I'm just playing football now. Yeah. There's still some things like some little intricacies that, maybe it's a rule breaker. I've learned the rules. I learned, the scheme, that kind of thing. It's a rule breaker that, hey, just on this play, we changed it 2 years ago to this. Oh, okay, perfect. So But there's still a couple of those things that we've ironed out as the days go on, as the installs grow. But for the most part, I feel like I'm just playing football again, because it's very similar to what I did my first, 8 years of my career.
It got toxic in Vegas. It just did, between Carr and the organization. Obviously, that's the case when you leave the team midseason and just check out. And that's what happened. They weren't going to bring him back. They wanted to move on. He was unhappy, and he just bailed. And I think you could see the writing on the wall in Oakland and then in Vegas for some time that they had kind of made that decision. Of course, you know what happened with John Gruden, and the whole thing just fell apart, and that's what happens in bad organizations. Just things happen. I don't know that the Gruden thing was totally in the Raiders' control, but those things happen more frequently to teams that don't know what's going on half the time. And it was just a toxic situation, and Carr, I think, is thrilled to be out of it. I think it's refreshing for him to be in New Orleans. And the question is, does his arrival kind of perk something up in a former all-pro wide receiver in Michael Thomas? And Derek Carr talked about him.
Yeah, I mean, we're growing. He's still getting back into it. We've hit some plays, we've missed some plays. And that comes with, Sheed and Olave, they practice all spring. You see us, the connections quicker today. Me and Mike hit on a few, actually quite a bit. Some good ones, one on the sideline, things like that, and then we missed one. And then and so, there's certain things there that we're still working on. But that comes with time, that comes with reps. We'll go in there, RC will correct me on the film, KB will, coach Mike, and then we'll get on the same page together, because it's all about what we're going to do together.
It's what I talked about yesterday. And it's about Michael Thomas. It's about his energy level. It's about his buy-in. It's about his want to. He's got a lot of money. And he played with a Hall of Famer and one of the 10, 12 greatest quarterbacks of all time for the beginning of his career. It's all he knew. And you come back the last couple of years and you don't play, and then you got different quarterbacks. I don't know that it inspired a lot of confidence in Mike Thomas. And you got the injury and it compounds it. And you just hope that you're going to get something out of Thomas, and you hope that Derek Carr is there to bring it out of him, because it's just easier to play that position when you've got a guy playing quarterback who you trust to get you the ball. And as Derek Carr mentioned, it's not perfect right now. Like they're going to misfire some, they're going to miss some, but they're going to hit on some. And I'm less concerned about the connections in practice and more concerned with, is this going to elevate Michael Thomas's level of play back toward, not to, toward where it was. As far as the other guys, Derek Carr talked about his relationship with the other guys.
I've been fortunate. I've played some really good receivers. Michael Crabtree, Amari Cooper, Devontae Adams. Mike's the same way. When he comes to the sideline, we're talking about good or bad. Hey, that was perfect right there. Hey, that's my fault. When he's under there, I'll throw it a little bit higher. Okay, I'll set it higher. Communication has to be open. Whenever there's no communication, you don't get better. But our communication has been great. He comes up to me, we talk about it, and then after practice, we always, anything that I miss, we always throw it again, and make sure, okay, now that's what it should feel like versus that look or whatever. And so, from that standpoint, I've tried to always do that with my guys. He's doing the same thing.
As I listen to these bites, I continue to think, I don't think I heard Andy Dalton say anything last year. I don't remember Andy Dalton saying anything last year. I know Drew Brees is an absolute cliche monster on the mic. Nothing of substance almost ever from Drew Brees to me. It's just very, very routine oriented and very cliche riddled. But I, in my opinion, this is an opinion of mine, I can just take Derek Carr a lot more seriously than I can Jameis Winston, who just seems to have like great sound bites for us, but just like kind of where you like raise your eyebrow and like, huh? They eat the W, and in Florida State we're gonna do it big, and the one where he said, when I was away from football, I learned that I don't just love football, I love playing football. It was there's just odd sound bites, and at times you could see his teammates like in the huddle being like, like the pregame huddle. I just feel like Derek Carr is just going to be a really solid leader for this Saints team. I don't have any expectation that Derek Carr is going to go out there and throw for 4,500 yards and 44 touchdowns. Like, I don't think that's going to happen. But I think he can pilot this ship more competently than anyone has since Brees. And that's really all they're asking. That's been my contention on this the entire time. I don't expect a big jump from Derek Carr because he's out of the Raiders organization and in the Saints organization. I think he's going to be basically the same guy. That just should in turn elevate the Saints from where they've been the last couple of years. It's not the Saints elevating Carr, it's Carr elevating the Saints. Now, how high does that elevator go? I have my doubts, my questions, but I think undoubtedly to me it could be higher than anybody else in this division. And that's really the talking point on this whole thing. It's like, do you have the same kind of optimism, and do you feel as energetic about the Saints knowing that it just doesn't look like a Super Bowl team, but hey, the division sucks? Does that get you out of bed in the morning? Makes things more interesting for us, but to each his own on that front. But I think Derek Carr is going to be a fine quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. We'll take another timeout. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more Saints, as well as an NFL rule that they may be looking to change, and they're taking it from a very unlikely place. That's next.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
LWCC is Louisiana Loyal. They're elevating and celebrating champions of Louisiana, as they've been doing here for the past 14 months. We've been thrilled to tell you about Corey Barr. Corey's a chef. He's made national acclaim, Food Network, but he comes back home. He comes back to Monroe. He operates 3 businesses in Monroe, helps the economy, helps home. There's a sense of pride in Corey Barr. He's a proud Louisianian, and that's why he's a champion of Louisiana. LWCC wants more of people like Corey Barr, and they want to tell those stories through us and through LWCC.com. So go to LWCC.com and nominate a champion of Louisiana. Could be an entrepreneur, could be a nonprofit, could be a business. And nominate a champion of Louisiana that they're doing great philanthropic work, and we'll talk about it right here on the Hunt Palmer Show. Corey Barr, certainly a champion of Louisiana. LWCC is Louisiana Loyal.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
It's Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Thursday's AFR, presented by the Aesthetic Medicine and Anti-Aging Clinics of Louisiana. Camp is here. We'll be out at LSU Fall Camp Day 1. We'll have a camp report, and you'll hear from Brian Kelly. Join us 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
We'll hear from Dennis Allen here shortly about the meeting between Alvin Kamara and Roger Goodell and what the fallout from that may be. But I'm curious about the proposed kickoff change in the NFL and where they're taking it from. The XFL. Now, I'm guessing you, the listener to this show, have no idea what the XFL kickoff looks like, because I didn't as of 10 o'clock this morning. But I think I'm on board with this. Now, it does alter the game in one drastic way, and we'll get to that in a second. But obviously the issue with kickoffs is injuries. You got 10 guys flying down there, crashing into blockers, and then you could potentially have a returner and a cover guy at full speed crashing into one another. That's a recipe for more violence than your standard offense versus defense line of scrimmage play. I get it. So the XFL said, well, we'll do something a little different. We're still going to kick off from the 30-yard line. But our kickoff team is going to be at the other 35, 5 yards away from the returning team. So what you got is the kicking team lined up at the 35-yard line, and 5 yards away from them, the blockers, and then behind them, the returners. So you eliminate the full field run. And I've watched this highlight, and you can't go when the ball is kicked. The cover team can only start moving once the ball is received. And I kind of like the look of it. And it does look a lot safer. There's just not as much massive collisions. You don't have the gates or the walls or whatever you want to call that, where there are 3 guys there and you're crashing into that, the wedge, whatever it is. You just got basically 10 on 10 or 9 on 10 blocking. And then you've got the return guy and the kicker. And I think it creates maybe some holes for some big plays too. So I kind of like it. The obvious deterrent is the fact that you can't do the surprise onside kick or the onside kick. You'd obviously have to back up, and then you would obviously be giving yourself away as an onside kick. So there are issues there. I like the surprise onside kick, although it doesn't happen very often. And if that's what we've got to give away to have more action on kickoffs, I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to have more returnable kickoffs to create big plays than I am we need to catch them on a surprise onside once every 3 years. Yes, I know, Saints fans. Nice job at the start of the second half of the Super Bowl. Like, big play. Gotcha. I know LSU fans. LSU started with a surprise onside against Auburn in the game in 2001 when Auburn stomped on the eye and got the penalty. Like, it does happen, and it's big moments, and we remember them, and that's been 23 years, and I remember it, and 14 in the other instance, and I remember it. But I kind of like it, so I wouldn't be totally opposed to them going to this. We'll see how serious they are about doing it. Clearly not this year. But, hey, the XFL, kind of a flop, kind of a failure. Doesn't interest me at all, but they pulled the Sky Cam from the XFL, and now they may be pulling kickoff rules from the XFL. I think that's rather interesting. Let's get to Dennis Allen's thoughts on the Alvin Kamara Roger Goodell meeting here briefly before we pause for our last time out. This Alan first on Alvin Kamara going to New York.
AK was in New York today visiting with the commissioner, so that's why he wasn't here today. Have a day off tomorrow, and then expect him to be back on whatever that is, Thursday.
So back today, Alvin Kamara back on Thursday. And the question is, like, can Kamara actually do anything? Like, is there any merit to him going up there and having this meeting?
I don't really know. I mean, that's a question for somebody else to answer. But I think it shows initiative on Alvin's part to want to get out ahead of this and get his side of the story out in terms of visiting with the commissioner. And so we'll see where it goes.
Totally agree. I think I don't think very little. I think very little positive will be done by Alvin Kamara going up there. I think Roger Goodell will take the meeting. I think they'll have a discussion. I think they'll exchange information. Alvin on kind of his thoughts on what happened. Roger Goodell on kind of his thoughts on what they've seen. And I think the NFL will likely do what they were going to do anyway. I do think if you just blow it off, show that you don't care, say, I'll be back, when they let me back. Like, I think showing that you care, maybe showing a little contrition, certainly doesn't hurt you. And I'd rather go that walk. I don't know if it's going to help, but you don't want to hurt yourself. So I'm with Kamara going up there. And the last one, was it a good sign that Goodell was receptive to even taking the meeting?
I don't want to really get into all the details of it. I think we've kind of addressed that. We'll let the process play out, and then we'll react to whatever decisions are made.
Now I'll give my opinion on this. In my opinion, if I come on the air on Monday at 1 o'clock and they have not made a decision, that's pathetic. Monday at 1 o'clock when I come on, a decision should be made by the NFL. Period. I wouldn't be upset if they made it by the time Matt goes on the air today, and that's 18 minutes from right now. They've got the information. They've seen the tapes. They've gotten the legal system ran its course weeks ago, and they ought to be ready to roll. There's no need to wait any longer. There's no more investigation that needs to be done. Everyone's side's been heard. The court of law, the victim, Alvin Kamara, you've got it all. And now Kamara's visited with Goodell. We're done. Do it. Get it done. There's no point in drawing it out anymore. And then I'll say my piece on what I think it'll be. Beck and I talked about this yesterday on Take It or Leave It. I think we're looking at somewhere in the I think 4 games. I'll say 4 games. Charlie said 2. I think the 6-8 is off the table at this point. But I still think the NFL thinks it's in its best interest to be rather heavy-handed. This is not the Jaguars deep snapper. This is not the Cardinals reserve guard swingman. This is an all-pro level running back at the Pro Bowl on camera in public. There's an example to be made here. And if you say, we'll just do 1 game, you just don't send much of a message. There's not much of a deterrent. And, look, I want to watch Alvin Kamara play. I'm not trying to, rattle the Saints fans' cage here. But, just think about that. And think about how the NFL operates. I think you're looking at a situation where they are going to level about a month. And I think it's going to be 4 games. And I've also spun this a little bit. You got Williams. You got Miller. Kamara misses a month. Maybe he's a little fresher in October than some other guys. Maybe he's a little fresher in November than some other guys. I'd rather him start the season, trust me. But just looking on the bright side a little bit. But the fact of the matter is that the NFL needs to come to a decision in the next 72 hours unequivocally. And that may be generous on my part. Get it done. We'll come back and close it up.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
'twas a humid day. Barefoot children play, looking for that summer shade. Time just slips away. Oh, Louisiana, some kind of hold on me. Like cypress stumps, your roots are planted deep inside of me.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, live at lunch, Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
Henniger, join us for Live at Lunch Friday from Rufino's on Highland Road. Bruce Marshall is with us, and Jimmy's back from vacation with a lot of football going on. Live at Lunch, 11 a.m. weekdays on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Closing up shop here. Thursday show is brought to you by Rouse's. It is almost the weekend. Get on by Rouse's. Get on by that butcher section in the back. Get your ribeye. I'm doing that tomorrow. I will be at the Rouse's, Burbank and Lee. Probably have the Myers man with me. Get him in the cart. We're getting a ribeye because when the little guy goes to sleep tomorrow and his mom's out west watching Taylor Swift, Dad's having a steak, and we're going to get it from Rouse's. We're going to get the ribeye. Very much looking forward to that. But they got everything you could need, and there's just an experience in Rouse's. Sometimes you walk into a grocery store, it's just not clean, and you're kind of questioning Rouse's is clean, it's comfortable, it's got all the selections you're going to need. That's where we do our shopping. So thrilled that they have jumped on here as our Thursday show sponsor. All right, Beck, take it or leave it.
All right, first one here. The Cubs scored 16 runs last night against the Reds.
They did.
Just a night after scoring 20 before that.
Mm-hmm.
It's the first time the Cubs have scored 16-plus runs in back-to-back games since 1894. They were pretty good then.
They weren't even the Cubs then.
Yeah, they were. What were they? The Orphans, maybe?
I'm not. There were some kind of stockings or something.
Yeah, white stockings. Anyway, the Cubs are the World Series favorites. Take it or leave it.
You got to take it. I mean, look at this. They're scoring 20 a night on the Reds.
I don't think you can lose when you do that.
No. Well, theoretically, but
you could.
Not this squad. I mean, it's been fun to watch the last 2 nights. They've hit 1 billion home runs. The Reds have used position players in the last 2 games to pitch. They can't even get through a game with their pitching staff because they're clubbing the ball over the yard. It's been enjoyable. When you do something you hadn't done since 1894, that's something to do. It was fun to watch the last 2 nights. Go Cubs.
The PGA Tour released its 2024 schedule. Once again, the Zurich Classic is sandwiched in between the Masters and the RBC Heritage. The Zurich, which are both designated events, by the way. The Zurich will one day be a designated event. Take it or leave it.
I've got my doubts on that. I'm going to leave that. Look, it's
not a good sign.
It's not a good sign, but it's awful. First of all, it's my favorite golf watching window of the year. It goes Masters, RBC, Zurich, and I have been to Augusta, and obviously we watch it every year, so you know the course. I played the RBC at Hilton Head, so I kind of got a feel for that course as well. And I've played TPC a dozen times or so down in New Orleans. So, it's the only stretch of the tour where I know the golf courses they're playing. But it's bad for the Zurich to be behind 2 designated events because all the stars are going to play the Masters and the RBC, and they're not going to come to New Orleans. It's the same thing as this past year. So they'll get Morikawa because he's a Zurich guy, and they'll get some of those guys will show up, but it's just a bad spot, and I don't think they're going to put a team event as a designated event. If they did, it would be awesome, and I think people would actually love to watch that, but you're going to have to move on the schedule because I just don't know that they're going to throw 3 designated events in a row right after the Florida swing. I just don't think that's going to happen. It's a tough spot for the Zurich for sure.
Tom Brady purchased a stake in English soccer team Birmingham City. His areas of influence will include sports science, player health, and nutrition and recovery programs. Brady will also contribute to global marketing efforts. Tom Brady in charge of your diet. Take it or leave it.
First of all, I'm going to leave it. But if Tom Brady saw my diet, he would be disgusted. I mean, this is a guy who won't even eat tomatoes. This is a guy who, what was he drinking? Avocado vodka on the parade? I mean, this guy hadn't had a cold beer maybe ever. This guy is not going to eat a steak like me tomorrow. This guy he would be disgusted. And if I'm joining this team and I've got to go on the TB12 diet, it's very good for you health-wise, but is it enjoyable in your day-to-day life? I can't say that it is. I'm sure Tom Brady enjoys his life plenty. He's got a lot of money and he had a gorgeous wife, and I'm sure he's about to get another one, and I think it's doing pretty well. Certainly not hosting this show from 1 to 3, but, I mean, have a cheeseburger once in a while. I gotta say, I mean, you only live once. The YOLO theory, enjoy a Coca-Cola every once in a while.
All right, last one here. The Hall of Fame game. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it. I'll take it. It's a selfless take it. This is not a selfish take it. It's a selfless. I know some of you driving around, some of you in your cubicle, some of you are out there, and you are fired up to crank up some football tonight. It's bad quarterbacks. Nobody that starts is going to play. Nobody that's even going to make a roster will play after halftime. But you want to watch football, and I support that fully. I'm not going to follow suit. I'm going to go watch the Cubs and Reds. But I know that y'all want to watch the Hall of Fame game for a couple of quarters. You might even put a couple of pennies down on the Hall of Fame game. I think that's mind-numbing, but I support you in doing that. So for that reason, I will take it. It's a selfless take because I know you people are out there and you're just dying for some football. And it's here. We got a chance to get out to LSU football practice today, and we talked about it in the first hour. I went over my thoughts on the first unit in defense at the beginning of the show, went over my thoughts on the running back position at the end of hour number 1. If you missed any of that, you can always catch the stuff on demand. But we got a new channel. It's Hunt on LSU. If you type in Hunt on LSU on YouTube, you subscribe to the channel, You're going to get all of our LSU football content sent right there, right to your front homepage on YouTube. 10, 12-minute segments, easily digestible. They're right there for you. If you want Saints, we did that today as well. We did it at 1:15 with Luke Johnson, and we did it at 2:30 talking about Derek Carr and Alvin Kamara and all that went into those quotes. So you want Saints coverage? Hunt on Saints. You can find it on YouTube. Subscribe. It's right there every single day. We are in football season now. That's a good thing. Looking forward to tomorrow's show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish, and Shrimp. We'll dive deeper into LSU practice, and we'll talk to John Brady as well, as he's got a little bit of new role here in Baton Rouge. But Matt Moscona was out at practice today. I saw him with my own two eyes. He'll probably talk about that some next. We'll see you tomorrow.